project that, we spent a lot of time the last maybe couple of weeks, but there's a lot of learning hopefully that you'll see that went on in our presentation. We're going to kind of share things and give you a little chance to move around and go to some different groups and learn some of the things that we've learned, some of the things that we think would be idealistic in a school, but also to gain your input, to get some ideas from you. So we want this to be kind of casual. If you have questions along the way, things that you aren't sure about, please ask those. We will set aside some time at the end as well if there's things that you don't understand, but that's kind of the format. And so I am Pete Kittle. I'm a high school principal at Brillion. They decided to go by age, so I got to be the person that introduces everybody here. They're going to share that. Actually, this is my second time through the program as well. Tom and I took it together, one of the first ones when we were at Kimberly. So that is who I am, and we'll kind of pass it around. We'll let everybody get started. So go ahead, Abby.
All right. So I'm Abby Banky, and I'm a third grade teacher in Hilbert.
I am Suzanne Lilly, and I'm a special education administrator with Milwaukee Public Schools.
I'm Alicia Dell, and I'm a high school social studies teacher at Hilbert High School.
Tracy Vittig, middle school Spanish teacher here at Pulaski.
Gregory Balza, principal at St. Mary's School in Luxembourg.
I'm Jane Del Corey, I'm a reading recovery and literacy specialist at Green Public Schools.
My name is Mark Kirst. I'm the Dean of Students at Foxview Intermediate School, 5th and 6th grade in De Pere.
And Amy Westfall, this year fourth grade teacher at Hilbert.
All right.
Oh, whoops. Is it on now? I don't know if it'll play, so we'll just do this.
We have kind of an introductory video here about our school, which is Tom's elevator speech, right?
We cannot hear this, Tom. Or is he just making like he's talking? Isn't that?
Using Powtoon.
So that is our introduction to our charter school, which is AIM, A-I-M. Amy and I are going to be doing the mission and vision part of this presentation. And then after we go, then what's going to happen is you'll split into groups. And then we'll all come back, so we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So our mission, we exist to develop highly engaged citizens who can apply their strengths to contribute to the greater good. Our vision is AIM here, A-I-M. All community members have opportunities to learn and grow. Individual strengths are enhanced, maintain high expectations of character and personal growth. So really the three things that have kind of been together and are a common theme throughout our whole idea is strength, student strengths, parent strengths, family strengths, teacher strengths, community, and the growth. So that growth mindset of the whole child. This quote right here, schools and classrooms become settings in which a variety of skills and abilities can be used to learn and solve problems. Being smart is no longer determined by a score on a test. Being smart is determined by how well students learn in a variety of ways. So, our beliefs, when we put our beliefs together, we've researched, we've looked at different charter schools, we've, the experiences that we've had in school, this is really our belief. It's not about scores, it's not about tests, it's about growth, it's about kids, families, communities having a mindset that they're going to get better. Next slide. I kind of want to explain why our school cannot function in a traditional school. So here's a couple of things. Students move through our schooling based on an independent learning portfolio. Students are not organized into grade levels. So we have them organized into certain groups depending on the project that we're doing, depending on many different things, basically where the kids want to go. They're kind of steering the boat. So students won't receive grades that we have to report to DPI. And another thing is poverty, which will be talked about by Pete and Jane in our community involvement. Group of facilitators alongside parents will mentor each student, helping that student develop his or her learning goals.
Okay, and why are we innovative? The first part is our school calendar. It's a year-round school, which you saw before, and right now it would have an 8-week summer.
Yeah.
And then the second year we would cut it down to 6 weeks to kind of transition slowly into a more like year-round school model. We would transition slowly, hopefully, so that it's not so much of a shock the first year. We also have incorporated, if you can see, we've got 30 days of professional development worked into the school schedule, school calendar. So it's about 2 a month with longer, I guess, sessions of professional development during those longer breaks, which I guess is not typical for a normal school like we all teach in. We think professional development is super important to just to keep our staff the best of the best to provide for these kids. Like you said earlier, we base all of the school, all the learning on project-based. So they will incorporate all the Common Core standards, like we'll touch on all of them because that is, you have to for the state, but we won't teach, like curriculum won't follow those standards, we'll just fit them all in. And then lastly, our 1 to 16 teacher to student ratio will be important just to keep those group sizes small. Alicia will touch on this later, but we will give a lot of good details about how we'll integrate community into the school, since that's one of our pillars, I guess, keeping the community important. But also, while we're planning the school and the planning process, we would want their input. They could attend planning sessions, they could complete surveys about what's happening in those planning sessions to provide feedback so we can, I guess, incorporate their ideas into the school, just to make it a community school. You can look through this. This is the demographic information on the district that the school would be part of. Obviously with a lottery enrollment, will the demographics be exactly this? Well, we don't really know, but it would model, we would expect this to be close to what the demographics would be.
We hear a lot about achievement gaps that exist in traditional schools. So these are a couple of things that we will commit. Hire staff and or aides who are able to communicate with parents, students, and other staff while including them in their personal learning opportunities. Provide opportunities for peer mentoring. We have a lot of collaboration going on between teachers, between students, families as well. We want to keep accurate records and data for each student to inform future instruction, what type of adjustments we need to make, what type of interventions need to happen. We want to hire qualified staff who are eager for professional development and have the mindset of the whole child in mind. We want to make the success of every student the priority of each and every working and learning member of the school.
Alright, so for the first year we would start with 40 students. And they would all be 8 years old as of August 1st. The second year then we would enroll another batch of 8-year-olds, so we'd grow to 80 students, and we'd do this for 4 years, just growing the population up to 160 students. They are enrolled by age, not by grade, so that would be a consideration that I guess families, as they choose to apply, that they would have to consider. And as we talked about before, the learning is based on projects, so different students would be working on different projects along throughout the year. Each project would more or less take 9 weeks. They'll be learning with flipped classroom at times, depending on the child, though it wouldn't, maybe they don't learn best by flipped classroom, so that would just be one of the options. And then each student would have a learning portfolio, and this is what we would use for the assessment. This portfolio would stay with them their 4 years in our school, and it would just show their growth according to the standards, but as well their learning goals. And this would be implemented by the facilitators, the governing body, parents, and the students.
So we have school goals, and obviously it's going to go along with our mission and vision as well. We're going to use the HOPE survey, and basically that survey is to allow kids to kind of understand where they're going. It's to help teachers understand where you're going. So it's very goal-oriented. Again, it helps with interventions. It helps with understanding, you know, how the kids feel in the school, how the staff feels in the school, how the family feels in the school. So the HOPE survey is one survey or one measuring tool that will be able to have that school goal. You know, there's wildly important goals, and in every school, and I'm not sure if every faculty member or every teacher knows what that goal is. So as a school goal, that's where we're going to focus. And not just a school goal, we will also have individual student goals, and that will be based on, we have 100, can you go one more, Abby? Sorry. 100% of our students, so this is our goal. 100% of our students will score proficient or advanced in math and ELA on the state assessment, or will show expected growth through best practice and universal screening tools used by our district. So we have a lofty goal here, but we also have the OR in there. So we want to show some growth. The kids that aren't proficient or advanced, we also want to see some growth, but those gaps really have to, we really need to cut those gaps. And we will use the Badger exam, Ames Web Math, and baseline assessment system, which is also the F&P. All right, so at this time, I think we have 15, right? 15 people here. What we're going to do is we're going to go through school facilities, finance, and law, curriculum, instruction, and assessment and staff development. So there will be 3 groups, and then the last group we will have in a community involvement back in here. So what we'll need to do is for you to split up into groups of 5, and we have one in, what is that called?
Groups of 4.
Oh, groups of 4, sorry. Okay, 15.
No, there's 12. There's 12.
Okay, sorry. What's that room called? Okay, that's where one group will go, and the other one will go into that room with Pete, and the other one will stay here. So if you can get in those groups, and then after about 10 minutes, we will switch groups, so you'll be able to kind of get up and
I know
move
you
around a
guys have
little bit.
seen this, but
Okay, here's more. First I'm gonna tell you the directions. What's form takeaway 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Takeaway. What's 6 takeaway 1? 1. No, you take away. So you take away 1 out of 6. How much does it equal?
Hope you can keep a straight face.
What's 5, 10 minus 1? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Take away 1. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more. Add one more. How many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 equals, it makes 9. See how you take away? You take 1. Do you get it now? Yes.
I want to see the actual cake set.
Do more like that. I love it.
It is, it's funny. So,
3. Yes. Good job.
all right, so we believe that if you do what you've always done, you're gonna get what you've always gotten. So, obviously from that clip, we know that that just doesn't work. So, we wanna be the change that we want to see, so we are transitioning into the project-based learning and personalized learning plans. It's skipping around. Okay, so we have chosen some programs that we feel will really benefit our students. So we started with Universal Design for Learning. Our Common Core will definitely be a part of our curriculum. We will not teach to the test, but we will have to cover all the Common Core standards. We use social emotional learning. We have 2 curriculums. They're mindfulness and second step. So our students will be more immersed in social emotional awareness programs as opposed to the public school environment. We will have our students create learning portfolios, and we will have them do community service outreach projects, 1 per 9-week session that ties and connects to their learning project they're working on. We use the transformational school model, so most traditional schools have the attributes on this side, and we're moving to becoming a transformational school, and we can't do what we're proposing to do in a public school because we are getting rid of the grades, we are going to be doing off-site learning, and we will be using a lot more of the emotional learning design. Here are some visuals to help explain a little bit of why we're doing things the way we're doing them. And I don't think I went back into full screen here. There you go. Okay, so she's going to talk about the social emotional learning, and then we're going to do an activity.
Okay, so we're going to use second step curriculum, and infused in the second step curriculum is going to be the mindfulness program, and it's going to follow the tiered interventions of RTI, and so we'll be doing it with all kids throughout the school, and even it'll also help staff as well. So we're going to do mindfulness therapy. What is it? Having a daily mindfulness practice and use what we learned from it to remain mindful of what we do every day. Being aware during the difficult situations in life. So every kid goes through some stressors throughout school, and how are we going to teach them how to do it? Well, we're going to be proactive instead of reactive. And by teaching them mindfulness activities, they're going to be able to be mindful of all those different situations through life, whether they're at home, whether they're at school, and we're going to practice those mindfulness activities every day, and it doesn't take very long, as you're going to see. In particular, we will become aware of our thoughts, feelings, behavior, and physiological changes. So we're going to go into a mindfulness exercise. We're going to step out of automatic pilot. So we all go kind of through our day, and do we really think about our breathing every day? Do we really think about our feelings every day? Do we think about where those are coming from? Or do we just push them aside and not think about them? So we're going to expand our awareness from breathing to our whole bodies. And the first thing we do, you want to make sure you just have good posture, but you're relaxed in that posture, okay? Your back needs to be erect, okay? And just a sense of being present and awake.
Sit tall. You can be on the ground with your legs crossed, or in your chair with your feet flat on the floor. Now imagine that you can look up and see the sky. And up in the sky, way up in the sky, is a balloon. If you'd like, you can choose a color for your balloon. Keep the picture of the balloon in your mind. The balloon's string reaches all the way down to your hands. Hold on to the string. Imagine that you can feel the pull of that big balloon. Imagine that the wind pushes it from side to side. Or imagine that the wind actually tries to pull the balloon higher into the sky. Maybe you can feel the gentle tugging of the string in your hands. Now try to bring your balloon down. Be careful to go slowly. You don't want the fragile string to break from pulling too hard or too quickly. Take your time. Imagine that you can gently pull the string, hand over hand. The string collects in a pile at your feet. Hand over hand, pull after gentle pull. The balloon appears to come closer. It might even become easier to bring it down in your mind as it gets closer to you. Keep bringing it down, closer and closer. Some other strings might be longer or shorter than yours, and that's okay. Just bring it down at your speed. Focus on your balloon. Keep bringing it down. Your colorful balloon may now be within your reach. Pretend that you do not need to use the string anymore. You can actually hold the balloon between your hands. Notice if you can feel the balloon in your hands. Be gentle. Imagine that with your next out-breath, you can open your hands and release your balloon. Let it go. Notice in your mind where it goes. It could be different for everyone. Just remain still for a few more moments and watch your balloon drift away.
I got points for that, just so you know what's happening on there. So as you can see, this really does work, and it can work with students. I've used it with my students in the public education setting, but doing this more often and creating these activities for students will really help them become more aware of what's going on. So we plan to use these to help our students grow socially and emotionally and in their interactions with one another. And this is what it looks like in a classroom when students would be doing a mindfulness activity. We also use universal design for learning, and it's the what, the how, the why of the brain. And so we focus a lot on project-based learning because the research shows that students learn better when they have a connection to what they're learning, how they're learning it, and why they're learning it, and that they can show that they've learned it in a variety of ways, not just on a test or at the same time as another student their age. So we focused a lot on John Hattie's research on different, he did 800,000 meta-studies of studies, and came to the conclusion that there are 7 different things that affect student learning. And he created what we call an infograph to display those top 7 items. The first one is self-reported grades. This is driving why we had to create our own school. With learning portfolios and not having grade levels, students will arrive at learning at different periods of time. It may take them a year and a half to master the 3rd grade standards, but we want to give them that time to learn and grow. So self-reported grades is our first one. Teacher credibility is second, and that is why we hire qualified staff. We have 30 days of professional development. And we encourage students to give us feedback through their portfolios. Phonics is part of our regular curriculum. Classroom management was another huge factor, which is why we look to mindfulness in second step to help our students be emotionally aware. Parental involvement and cooperative learning you'll learn a lot more about in the community involvement piece, but they're very big pillars of our charter school.
Okay, we will also be following the rules and regulations of state and federal Individuals with Disabilities Act for providing services for students with special needs. Through ensuring a free, appropriate public education for all students, ensuring least restrictive environment so that they can be educated alongside of their peers to the greatest extent possible. This will be embedded into inclusion and a team teaching approach. The students that will be attending our school will have 21% or less time spent in a special education classroom, or what you call pull-out. There'll be collaboration between special ed, regular ed, and then testing accommodations will be driven by the individualized education plan or the IEP.
That's our section.
So this is the part we crushed the reality of all those dream worlds that everybody talks about, that we talked about the money part. And I think it's an important thing for us to understand. Give you a little background in the finance of charter schools. Actually in Wisconsin at the current time you could not apply for a charter. There is no money available in Wisconsin to start a new charter school. I learned a lot that the charter school is actually a federal grant. And Wisconsin was at the end of their 5-year cycle in that grant last year, or this current school year. They're in the process of applying for a new grant. But it is a competitive deal, I guess, federally, is that you have to present, the DPI obviously is going to present at the federal level on how much dollars we need. And so there is no ability to get any data on what's going on exactly right now on what would happen if you applied for a charter school. So we use data from what would be this past school year, last spring, when you would have applied for a charter. And there's a number of different charter grants. I'm going to talk about 2 of them. The first one would be a planning grant. The planning grant is not included in this description. As they talked about a 3-year budget, so I developed a 3-year operational budget. But you can apply for up to $150,000 in planning money. The thing that's important to understand about grants for charter schools is they cannot be used to pay the wages of the teachers. You can't use any of that money to pay teacher regular wages. Now you could pay what they term as overtime, so if you want to do summer things or you want to do a weekend thing to train teachers, you can pay them an hourly wage out of your charter for that. But you cannot pay their regular wages, their insurance, or any of those type of things through the charter. So we would use that planning grant. The general idea would be to take the summer a year prior to when we were going to open our school and spend, I think I had allocated about $25,000 in just some initial teacher meeting, planning, talking about the concept. I then allocated about $5,000 a month during the school year for ongoing professional development for those teachers that we've selected to be part of the initial group. You can use money to pay substitute teachers if you want to send those teachers to someplace to look at another school or to do those things. So you can pay the subs, but you cannot pay the actual teacher their wage during that time. So we allocated that money monthly to kind of continue that training, and then the remainder of that planning grant will be used in the summer directly prior as we prepare to open our school. There is some, those last numbers, the thing I would talk about most is the end. If you really want all the cool information about all the exciting stuff, when you look at how you generate how much money you have, you have to include unemployment, you have to include benefits, you have to include all those type of things, because the district still has to pay those people. And so they're going to want to know how much is this charter school going to cost our district. That grant isn't going to take care of everything. So I calculated those, and I'll just give you a little bit of a summary of things, and I'll show you at the bottom where we're at. Our plan initially is that we'll have a half-time administrator the first year, 75%, and by year 3 we'll pay that administrator a full administrative salary. Our 16-to-1 student-teacher ratio, people say, why'd you pick 16? 16 is a prettier number than 15. 15 doesn't, 16 into 40, you can get those fractions to work out. 4 goes into both of those nicely, and it continues on that way, so that really wasn't why, but it does work out a lot nicely. So we have 2.5 teachers the first year. I averaged $50,000 a teacher because they are going to put in a longer year. Proportionally, it came out to be compared to about $43,000 or $44,000 if it was a starting teacher, but you might have some experienced teachers that are going to be beyond that, so I picked 50 as my nice round number to work from there. We have a teacher aide in there, and we have a half-time specialist the first year. That specialist, we don't know what these students are going to be. Are they going to need some special ed services? We don't know what those would be because it's a lottery system, but we have to account for that. We will probably have to hire somebody that's going to help our teachers out in that way. Year 2, you're up to 5 staff members, an aide. I think it was a 75% specialist position. Year 3, we're up to 7.5 teachers. We have a full-time specialist. We're up to 2 aides. So that's kind of the progression you see in these numbers that go along here. The final summary that I think is important for us to understand. Whoops.
Yeah, because we have, so this is your 1, 2. Yeah. Okay.
See if I can get this thing to turn up where I want. The bottom line, I think, is important if you're talking to your district bookkeeper so they understand So these types of things we can use our grant for, some supplies, classroom supplies, our one-to-one initiative, staff development. And so when we look at our revenue for our grant, we applied for a $150,000 charter grant, we assume that. You'll notice we only get 145 of that 150 because you're required to take 3% of that money off the top and put it to a charter school fund, separate. You can't use that. Part of our money has to go to that fund to kind of perpetuate the charter school idea. So I kind of incrementally broke it down. Again, we'll need some startup money, but then it'll get greater. We'll use a greater amount of our grant as we go on because we're going to have more students, obviously. More students, more teachers that we have to increase. The revenue from the district, I think, is important. The district still gets state aid on those students. I used, I think, $9,000, which is kind of a rough number depending on, Jane will talk maybe a little bit some of the other options, but I just used a flat-out amount because the district has to know that that aid is going to help pay for these teachers. This is the district's cost right here. So they want to make sure that they're covered there. And that's where I was looking at, this final number. Are we going to be okay? Because this number's got to heat the building, clean it, do all those type of things. One concern we had budgetarily is that normal school aid is about 60 to 65%, or is used about 60 to 65% to pay your staff, to take care of all the staff. We're over that the first year. We're at about 88% we're going to need from the district. They're going to have to make a bigger staff contribution. The reason is we only have 40 students in our school. We're kind of small. We don't get that extra money. So there is a commitment from the district initially to get this started. As time goes on, you'll see that that number looks a lot better as we get into the process. But the first year there's going to be a little hit. We've talked about some alternative funding. Jane will talk a little bit about some of the other places where funding can come from, Title I and some of those things as we move in our progress. But we did not account for any of that because it's a lottery system. You don't know how many of those. So as I joked before, we hope that student gets picked because they're worth more money than the others. So.
Because
All right.
Are you done?
Yep, I'm done.
Our district, that we align with the 67% poverty, so we want to bank on that. Our population from the lottery will be around that. I know for Green Bay Public Schools, around 50 is where we start funding either Title I or school-wide, targeted assistant or school-wide funding. But as Pete said, we didn't want to count on money that we didn't have because with the lottery we just don't know. I'm going to flip over to facilities. This is our initial design, and as you can see, we still have some classroom space, lots of windows, lots of glass, so it feels very open. It's 21st century learning styling. We kind of really wanted it to look like Fox Valley Tech because when we went there we felt like that gave us just a whole different approach and attitude toward our work when we were there. Small group spaces, we assume a lot will go on in here. But we still have the classrooms for breakouts, for small groups, for parent meetings, for some of our community members coming in. If you haven't been to the community piece you'll hear about last, and we needed to have those environments as well. So this is basically our facility design. The last two pieces that I need to talk about with you are law. The law part, rest assured in our paper we have all of the state and federal statutes that document that we will take care of the regulations around ESEA, IDEA, all of those requirements that state and federal statute say we have to comply with. Our employment practices, our hiring practices, how we will conduct our lottery. Thanks, Mark. All of those things, we will comply with with the state and federal statutes on that. Pete, can you hit me the next slide?
Yep.
The big ones I wanted to hit on though are what changes or things do we need to have waived from the traditional school district policy. The first one is the length of the school day, along with the number of days and the hours. We would request to have some flexibility within that. I think when calculated, and I'll pass our calendar around, we have 178 days, not 180 days, so that we'd have to petition because law says 180 days. But that is a possibility. The other thing, art, music, FIAD instruction, the statute reads it requires the district to ensure in elementary, high school that all of those things are provided by a qualified teacher. That's going to be an issue for us. We are going to have a specialist on staff. It'll be an integrated arts, integrated within within or embedded into the programs. And so we have to apply for that because we can't have a specialist in each of those areas with the small number of kids and funding that we have.
Can I ask a question? What do you mean apply for that?
Well, these are things that if you're gonna make these changes, these are allowable changes within the charter school format, but these are the ones that we'd go to the board and we would ask to be
Like they have
waived.
to
You
approve.
you can have these waived. There's some you can have waived,
Okay.
but these are ones that we could have waived. And then the last one again, so that's the specialist area, and then professional development, we have the 30 days in there, and that doesn't align with what our school district would require for
Can you give an
professional
example of one like that couldn't be waived?
When,
Like one that couldn't be waived? You said these could, like what's something that you couldn't even describe?
Discrimination by age,
Yeah.
rate, your
Oh, okay.
standard discrimination type,
Okay.
that is not optional. You
Right.
can't,
we can't
Okay.
say we can't take a Down syndrome child because we don't have the
Right.
means to educate.
Okay,
You know,
I
anything with
get
an IDEA
Yeah.
or ESEA, any of those federal mandates, or hiring based on religion, based on, or even not
I
allowing
guess I do have another
students.
question then. If you
Okay.
do have someone that has qualified of a need and you have to put like ramps in or special facility design, how do you get that money?
Well,
Just
there
to
is
get
grants, you can apply for it through CISA. We would assume, I mean, we try to pull every rabbit out of the hat
Yeah.
because the money man,
Yeah.
the other groups would say, we want this, and we'd be like, well, we can't afford that.
Yeah.
So they really made us think outside the box. I mean, once you get in a bigger system, like I didn't teach in Green Bay my entire life, you find out there are avenues, there's doors, there's a lot of grants that can be applied for. So if we had that, we'd have to go probably through the IDEA door and find out through CISA what things they could accommodate us with. You may be able to talk to them
and that is
from
a
high
district
school.
commitment. The one thing about finance, that is not something you could pay for in your grant.
Yeah.
That's one of the things the district has to make the commitment to do the facility.
Right.
And that's part of why we chose to be
Aligned,
part of
yeah.
the district.
Right.
Otherwise, we have to try to calculate all the funding. If we went to a standalone facility,
Yeah.
made a private charter, that's a different than a public charter, so.
Because the district would have to put ramps in, would have to do that if the child wasn't chosen in the lottery,
Right.
was part of that district. So
If-
that's why we aligned into another.
If you are chosen in a lottery, can you deny that?
Sure.
Okay.
You have to apply to get in the lottery
Ah,
started.
gotcha.
So there's an
Okay.
application process.
Which
We're
we'll
assuming
talk
there's
about
gonna be
in
more
our
than,
community
we're
piece.
hoping there's more than 40 a year, or we're in trouble, and we don't have enough
Right.
money for any of it,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
And then the other, within the law section and statute section, with lottery, there's two caveats to that, is that if a sibling is drawn, or if a child is drawn, siblings, that wouldn't really be an issue till the third year, but their siblings are automatic entry if they
If they want.
want to be. And the other thing is if staff members want their child to be at the school, that's an automatic entry, not included in lottery. So those are two other legal pieces that we have to consider.
And I think an important part about the staffing with the art music fed, the idea is they will get all those things, but it's all part of the projects that they're going to do. So that we're gonna take and send them to art as a standalone class. They're gonna do art as part of one of their learning projects that they're doing, or get their physical education through a project-based. So they're still gonna get those components, just not a standalone, we're gonna send you to 5 for a while and have you run around. We're gonna try to do things throughout the day or throughout their projects and incorporate that part.
The other thing in the community piece you'll hear too is that what sets us apart is our Friday community involvement days. We would look at really gearing into the specials as well. We go to our local Y and figure out what jobs do they do there. We're gonna do a lot of career, we're gonna do a lot of background, we're gonna do a lot of vocabulary building because we're assuming these kids will be 67% possibly from poverty. So we'll work in some of our specialty areas on those all-day Friday learning, not field trips, I don't know what we call them.
Activities, learning.
Event days, so. Do you have questions for us? I mean, we'll answer questions at the end, but if there's something burning to this area.
This is the most exciting
Yeah.
part, in case you're wondering, the money part. is-
Yeah, we drew the lots.
So there, yeah, whatever teacher.
So how do you like keep it going though? Like, cause you were showed the 3 years and then after
that
that
point, it's
you're.
up to the district responsibility to keep
Okay,
it going.
so it's just basically that grant is just to get you started.
That's the idea, and then the
Okay.
district has to decide. Now, you can continue to apply for, you can make adjustments, and you could apply for another grant. There's actually a dissemination grant as you break it apart and move on. There's a grant you can apply for on that end as well, kind of as it slides into the district. But yeah, that's the idea. At some point, this school becomes a district
school itself.
It's just, it's the district's responsibility. And hopefully the one thing you did see, as you do get into the state aid part of it, our district is still making money. You still would be hiring, once we get up to 160 students, you'd still be hiring those teachers to teach those kids, and they're just in their own chunk, so.
I guess, so the kids do not have to pay anything extra to come to the school?
No.
No.
That's
Public
one
school.
of, yeah, and that's within the statutes too. There's no, it's tuition free, and we can only charge whatever their public school counterparts would pay for books or a gym uniform or whatever.
Like athletics, they would just join in with the
Correct.
local high school or?
And if you think about another thing with being competitive and continuing grant, how do you sustain this was your question, I think, is if you think about school choice and the money that we bring in, we would allow kids that could school choice into which can be anyone, we would allow them to be part of that lottery system. And if you get a good enough product or an environment that that's highly sought after and it's done well, you're gonna have a big.
Bring your district.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's wishful thinking, but two, you get 160 students, your poverty goes up, there's a lot of money that comes out of federal dollars that could be available to us, and we know those projections as we do our first and second year.
I have one other question. Where would they eat?
I was wondering that too.
They're in the same facility as so our facility is within another building.
Oh.
We did not build a standalone facility
So
because of the
that's what that
expense.
tall
We
Wait,
just
what's that?
we just knocked walls out. We got a space like this, and we knocked our walls out and made our facility,
Okay.
but it's right like it would be at
So
the
they
end
would go
of.
to the cafeteria?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, they're part of the regular school, they're just kind of school within a school.
Right.
Which for a lot of times meant it was an at-risk problem. This is a school within a school that's not an at-risk situation, it's just a different style of learning, so.
So then I guess that answers part of my next question is, I was gonna ask if there was any admin there. I'm guessing it's just the teachers and then it's part of the large.
There's a half-time admin.
Oh,
The
there's-
first year is
okay.
75.75, the second year, and full-time admin the third year.
Oh, okay.
And our goal for that, if you did you go to staff development already?
No,
No.
we were
Okay,
buildings.
one of the beautiful thing about that is that admin will be a 50% admin that first year, but that he or she will be in the trenches that first year too.
They also have
So,
50% teacher.
I mean, so much power in developing that professional learning plan and really learning as a team. And you'll see how they're not a boss, they're a leader and that whole thing in your next sectional. But
Cool.
yeah, we ramped that up. Once we get to 160, we'll have a full-time administrator. Because I want it to be that person.
Can I have one more question about the waived classes?
Yep.
Because like right now, obviously there's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I just don't know enough about that. So like, middle school, they have to be every other day. I think elementary right now is 30 minutes twice a week.
Right.
And this is the professional development portion of our charter school plan. So we're just gonna get started right away. You'll notice that we have a mission and a vision up here. Greg and I got together on a Sunday morning, and we kind of sat and looked at each other for a long time going, where are we gonna go with this? So finally I said, we need to organize our thoughts and whatever, and I have a plan, and I said, usually when I write up a plan, I do a mission, a vision, goal, values and goals. So the mission tells why we exist, the vision tells what we want to achieve or where we're going. Values are what we see as non-negotiable parts of our plan, and then our goals are the part that helps us measure to make sure we're staying true to our values. So in our mission, we just said we want to help teachers grow as effective and reflective educators and human beings in order to enhance our learning environment.
Our whole thought process on our vision is that teachers will engage in that lifelong learning in order to understand the educational system and its effects on our students as individuals and learners. That the educational system is constantly changing, and that we have to be up to date with it and the lifelong learning through it.
Okay, so these are some of our non-negotiable values that we're going to try to adhere to. We value community members who are reflective practitioners, outside of the box, or flexible thinkers, lifelong learners, agents of change, content experts, quality leaders, and contributing members of our school community. And how we're going to measure our growth as a professional team are listed here. We're going to use educator effectiveness. We're going to talk about 20% time to develop interests or passions related to learning. PLCs are professional learning communities, which will help us reflect on the learning that our students are doing and how we can help make it better. Something very unique is that we would have 30 full days of professional development. Attending professional conferences isn't really a new or novel idea, but making sure that the people who attend it have time to share the knowledge and the skills that they learn. Kind of a non-negotiable to measure that we're moving forward. And then we would have specific opportunities to celebrate successes and to let our teachers know that we realize and recognize their hard work and efforts and accomplishments.
So we were thinking, how do we roll this plan out with only a few teachers in the beginning as we build on? So we thought we did a 3-year enrollment plan or rollout plan, and then year 4 would be our whole process of it. So year 1, we thought we'd just take and focus on educator effectiveness, all the parts of educator effectiveness, and going through it. We're looking at making it, for the staff, a way of putting things together. We have PDPs, we have educator effectiveness, we have all these things to write. We want it to be effective for the teachers, so kind of keep that whole ball of wax in the same process. Year 2, we want to continue with educator effectiveness, and then we implement 20% time, Genius Hour, those ways. Trying to have teachers, or building that time for teachers to be unique, to explore ideas. I think a lot of our complaints would be, I have a great idea, but I never have time to do it, never have time to work at it. Well, here's your time to develop that idea for your class. So implementing 20% time or a Genius Hour throughout your day to work for it. So I have a little video to kind of sum up things provides us. $1 million person right now. I saw on Pet Rock. So again, you get to some accountability with 20% time, I understand that, but at the same time we want our teachers to explore that and what it would mean to them, how they could use it in their classroom to move forward.
And how nice for our students to see us live in what we're asking them to do as well. So.
Year 3 then would continue with our educator effectiveness, 20% time or Genius Hour, and then we'll start having the more staff members. We'd start implementing our PLCs, our professional learning communities, to build on different areas. We want to continue to build what they need as staff members, but also continue our goals, our fundamental parts of our school, which is our individual learning plans, our community outreach, our mentoring, all those parts so we can continue to build the base of our school also. Part of our evaluation we thought of is having our new hire training, and what would that look like in our AIM school. We did a little research on what a first year teacher goes through, and it kind of sums it up. It's a roller coaster of a year. I put myself there on my first year teacher. You know, you get so excited, I got my first job, and I'm going to do all these fun things, and you go into, as you move on, October comes in survival mode, and then we hit Christmas time, and I'm absolutely, what are we doing? I'm completely lost. And we move up the scale back to the end of the year, we're like, hey, I do this again next year. So we want, Jason and I came up with some ideas to help mentor that person that first year with an administrator, maybe a teacher professional, and then obviously the teacher, and develop some structures throughout that year to help them, and realize that teachers go through this process and what we can do to help them through that. And then year 2 would be more of a gradual release program where, yes, you still have that mentor and the administrator to help you, but it would be more of a touch base needed instead of having the direct support through that second year. So, simple, easy way through it.
Okay, so once we have the new teachers and we get them rolling, we want to make sure that we can retain them and that they want to continue to work with us. So we did talk about some retention strategies. So when we were doing this, we kind of said, well, you know, what do teachers want, which led us to some research about what a teacher in this day and age is like, called the Generation Y teacher. Just for your information, I don't fall into this category. So, I'm a little older than that, but, or 21st century teachers, and some of the things that stood out to us was, obviously they prefer to communicate more through technology than they do face-to-face, or rather than in person. They value their benefits at work, and they seek career advancement, desire flexibility, and higher pay. They work well in teams, so opportunities to collaborate are awesome, and they possess high energy, so they're going to want to have the opportunity to work. They work hard, but they also enjoy fun and pleasure. They're financially savvy, but they also like to spend their money. They want constant feedback. I think this is a big one. Being a mentor in my school district right now, and listening to some of the teachers, they want to know that they're on the right track and doing the right thing. But they want it immediately, like they don't want to wait for that educator effectiveness meeting to come up at the end of the year or the mid-year. They do something, they want to know, what do you think? Work among and with a diverse group of individuals. They seem to have the capabilities to do that, and they multitask proficiently, so they can have they can be juggling a lot of balls at one time. And they like change. I think that's important. I'm not a Generation Y teacher, and I like change. I see the value in it, and the value in it for our students as well. So as we were developing all of this stuff and kind of deciding our structure, you know, the educator effectiveness is one way for them to get feedback. The mentoring program, and also the PLC structure is an opportunity to say, hey, this is what worked well for me, or this is what didn't work well, and why isn't it working well, and well, let's look into it, do some research, create an action plan. So they have a lot of opportunities to do that, to work together. I forgot what else I was going to say. 20% time sharing their professional development once they come back from something. And then just really giving them opportunities for fun and building community and relationships when we're creating those celebrations for their successes and things like that. Finally, we had to talk about, we need to obviously have some kind of administrative personnel in our building. So we kicked this around with the whole large group for a little while. Initially we thought, oh, let's have leaders, let's pick leaders for different things based on their strengths and things like that. And as the conversation kind of evolved, we decided it was good to have one administrator that kind of was the gatekeeper. Not that he or she is telling us what to do, but kind of the gatekeeper of the information and the things going on, and kind of keeping all the gears going at the same time and interacting with each other. And then from there we would have teacher leaders, be our PLC leaders and things like that. And every teacher can have an opportunity to lead an initiative or to be a mentor, things like that, whatever fits their strengths. What did I forget? Oh, yeah. So the first year that we're open, our administrator, our leader person would be 50% teacher, 50% administrator. The second year he would be 75% administrator, 25% teacher, and then a full-time administrator as our staff grows, which we feel is very beneficial because then he'll have gone through the process of being the teacher and seeing what it's like in this environment and knowing some of the struggles and things that their teachers face and actually living it firsthand and experiencing it and having some insight that way.
So I think the biggest change overall for our staff development is the 30 days and the implementation of really your self-guided approach to your learning, just like our students have a self-guided pace, the teachers have a self-guided pace. We go to so many conferences and you have to go to this staff development because that's what the school is doing, you know. We're doing this one, but at the same time, we're looking here at our school through AIM to pick your area. What do you personally need in your classroom and in your group of students or your development area for it? So more individualized approach.
I know like the administrator, they always have to give like approval for like certain things. So when they're 50 or 75% teachers still, I mean, how would you limit to make sure that they are giving as many opportunities to the teachers rather than just themselves? Because they do have the power role.
I'll just take that one, Greg.
Really, our first year is only, what, 2 teachers that first year? And
it's not
or, sorry, it's really, 1 teacher is administrator, 1 person. So when you're sharing that 2-role person, I think that it's a smaller school. I think you'd be able to share that task between the 2.
It's not like there's 20 people to manage, there's like 3 people, so.
And I think it's the whole mindset of a school is changing, the charter school, that we had the flexibility to hire that person and hire the teachers to allow that whole share model, that we're not I mean, get rid of this word and I'm not the boss, but we are in this together and building that community. So.
And as our staff grows, then we'll have PLC leaders also support him and be that mid.
Which are those teachers, I mean?
Which are those teachers looking out for.
Any other questions for us?
We'll have a question and answer session. What I would like is to have, you know, being in Pete and Jane's group, there were some good questions that one group asked that the other 2 groups didn't ask. So if each group in each section could maybe share one good question that a group had that possibly the other groups would have liked to have answered, we'll start with that, and then you can ask individual questions after that. So.
Great. I'm Alicia again, just in case I forgot. Just to kind of give a preface to this, I'm going to throw a lot of different ideas and programs at you. Keep in mind that this is going to be built up over the 4 years. So this isn't something we're going to just throw in all in the first year, because you're going to look at some of these programs and go, you got 2.5 staff members, how are you going to do that? So just keep that in mind that this is going to be, once we get to that max of 160 students, this is what we're hoping to all have put in place by that time. So keeping community members involved in the implementation of the school, we're going to use social media to help keep the community members involved, things like Twitter, Facebook, blogs. It'll keep them informed, involved about what's going on at AIM, as well as allowing them an opportunity to give us feedback, because there could be somebody out in our community that has a great idea or something that we could add to the school that inside the school we might have no idea. So we want to allow that opportunity for the community to help us grow as well. Social get-togethers, we'll have food, coffee, milk, ice cream socials, things like that to bring the community into the school. And that'll kind of be our time for celebration of learning too. So the students will have the opportunity to take their parents or community members around and show them what's going on in the school versus the traditional sit-down one-on-one with the parents and teachers. The students will be a larger part of kind of explaining what's going on, how they're learning, what they're learning, and what we're doing at AIM. Business workshops, this is going to allow our businesses to interact with our school and get more involved, and it gives the students an opportunity to see what's out there for them, kind of make them aware of what is in their community or involved in their community, as well as possible opportunities in the future. And by having the businesses interact with AIM, it'll give business and students an advantage of kind of learning about each other in the school and what's going on in the community, different aspects of their community. Boys and Girls Club partnership, we believe that the values of the Boys and Girls Club are very similar to AIM, so that's why we want to bring them in. Provides a safe and enriching after-school experience for the students, and they'll be able to participate in a variety of programs, community service, academic, health, and wellness. Community service and outreach, again, community being a pillar of our school, we want to make sure that our students, our staff, is giving back to the community as well. And here's where we're going to really push to motivate parents and other community members to volunteer in this process as well. And it'll help our students, staff, and other community members learn more about their community and the people living within it. Maybe give them a chance to interact with people they wouldn't on a normal basis. Community learning labs, literacy nights, maybe for people who are struggling with English, give them a chance to come in and just get some help with that. Reading nights, members of the community can come in and help our youth with reading. And then we were also thinking about like computer literacy nights, so maybe older members of the community who are trying to get more familiar with technology, something they didn't have when they were younger. It'll give the students a chance to work with them as well. So it kind of can go both ways. The students and the staff can give out to the community, and then the community can give back to the students and staff as well. The PTSO, Parent Teacher Student Organization. Again, we want to keep all aspects of our school and community involved, and that they would help with fundraising, planning of family and community literacy nights, and other areas wherever they see fit, wherever they want to jump in and help. And then the home-based visits on listening. This isn't something we force, so it would only be if the families welcome us into our house. We're not going to require them to let us into their homes. But if they're willing, we'd like to reach out and go and kind of meet them, sit in an environment that maybe they feel a little more comfortable in. And there's where we can discuss maybe the goals that they have for their children, expectations they have, or any concerns that they might have about their children or the staff at the school. Informing and providing an equal opportunity. Again, to make sure that the community knows about AIM, we'd like to use mailing lists, blogs, Twitter, Facebook, realizing that maybe not everybody has access to 21st century materials or skills. And we're also going to make sure that we use a mailing list as well, so it's not just social media for those of you that don't have access to it. So we're going to mail out all the information as well as posting it on social media. Things like open houses, application process, and any events held by the school. And then local community centers and businesses will be included in this, so we'll have it posted there as well. So again, people have multiple opportunities to be informed about it. Open house, staff and administrators will be present to provide tours of the school. And then we'll also provide a question and answer session at each open house to help the community understand the goals, which we explained to you earlier. So kind of similar to what you experienced at the beginning. The lottery, which was briefly mentioned before, anyone 8 years old or under 12 years old by the age of August 1st can apply, and that again will take place by the time we have the 4-year, or at the point of 4 years. Randomly drawing during a school meeting by the governing school board. And siblings, again, some people had asked questions about this, but siblings will be allowed in, so that way parents aren't concerned about the breaks not lining up for their students. So if somebody's brother or sister gets in, they'll be included in that right away as well. There will be a waiting list, but again, when the new school year begins, they'll have to reapply, so the waiting list won't carry over into the following year. Online applications. Again, mailing lists and social media will be used to get this information out, but we also want to make sure that maybe those who don't have the 21st century skills to fill out an online application still have the opportunity to enroll their children in it. So we're going to make sure that we set up times at maybe like a public library or something where they have computer access that we can sit down and help them enroll their children in as well. Newsletters. Sent out to everyone in the community, and again, posted in every public building and workplace that will allow us to do so. And leadership councils made up of both staff and community. Again, realizing that we don't have all the answers within the school walls, we want to make sure we include outside community members so that we can get ideas from them as well. And they'll meet and discuss times and places that could be used to help promote and inform everyone about the school, because we may not think of a place that would be a really good opportunity to go to. But the community members might say, hey, if you guys go here on a Tuesday night, there's a bunch of people here that you could talk to about. So,
one of the other challenges that we were faced with is combating the impact of poverty on learning. And one of the studies we looked at with Eric Jensen's work talked about it, that the disparity between words heard by the time a child is 4. In a low-income house, it's 13 million words as opposed to 26 million words. In a middle income, and then upper echelon is even a much higher number. So our Friday learning event days, that's the goal of that, is to get our kids out into the community and get experiences. I think when we talked about this and we were putting our ideas together, I talked about, I'm downtown Green Bay, and how many kids, it's astounding to me how many kids don't know what a cow looks like, and that we're in Green Bay. So it's real and it's out there, and if we don't give the kids those experiences when they're 8, 9, 10, and 11, we can't draw on that. So the event days would take our kids into a business or into the Y or onto a farm. And they would spend the day learning the vocabulary, learning the experiences, learning the jobs and the social studies responsibilities and community helpers and all of those things. And just the amount of words heard and just the actual application would be so important to our kids. And granted, our school district, you know, the demographics are 67% poverty, but it could be, you know, it could be higher, could be lower. If it were lower, those are all, you know, there's still wonderful experiences for the kids to be involved in, not just kids from poverty. But this was one of the most, well, it was good for all kids to be out of their learning environment and learning real 21st century things. So, and especially for the kids in poverty.
And the career fairs kind of tie into that, where we would like to get some of the businesses involved again. And within a business, there's so many different jobs within a business. So bringing them in and having them talk to the kids about all the different jobs within one business, and to realize that the local business down the road, maybe the cheese factory or something, is not just factory workers, but there's accountants that are involved there, and managers, and all those different areas. Getting them involved. And the other idea we had was taking the kids' passions and interests and having them put together their own career fair. So maybe taking something they're interested in and finding different jobs that are related to it, and then having them set up their own little career fair and present on the different jobs that they would maybe like to have one day. Again, just opening up the other children's eyes to what's out there maybe for them that they would never think of on just a typical basis.
Great. So as we finish, we talked about the chance for you to maybe sit back and ask questions, and maybe each group will talk a little bit about some of the questions that were asked in there. So we can start, I guess, a couple of questions that came that maybe some thought a great one was about where our kids going to eat lunch. I thought that was a great question, and part of our concept is that we're actually within a current school district. We are just a school within a school. I use the example that always used to have a negative connotation, that was where the bad kids went, but this is going to be a different school within a school. We're part of a bigger facility. We are not a standalone facility. For a couple reasons, saves us a lot of money in trying to run our school, because we're part, so we don't have to account for all that type of stuff. And it still has our kids interacting with all the other students that are friends of theirs. You know, it doesn't. I don't think it makes it quite as standoffish a little bit. Any questions that you remember, Jane?
The only other thing that I think it was, I don't remember which session we talked about it in, but when you rally business and you rally community behind you, I think that when you're a private entity and we're all fighting for school dollars and school choice, kids would be part of any lottery. I think that when you get business behind you and community behind you, it makes it easier to sell a lot of things. You sell programs better. So this huge community push could be the carrot that is dangled out there to surrounding communities as far as wanting to choice in. And maybe they choice into the public school if they don't get in to our private within that lottery that first year. So I think it has some real, you know, because we're budget people, it may have some really good positive budget implications for us. So we talked just a tiny bit about that.
And maybe we'll just, any other questions anybody had on, like, finance law, things that are bugging you right now?
Do you have transportation into your budget?
Transportation is provided by the district, so they're coming to the same facility.
But I mean, like
on the Fridays,
on Fridays.
yes, we do have that in the budget. Yeah.
Same with like if you were going like the field trip or like you're not calling it field trips.
If we had to pay some, yeah.
That's part of that like grant money.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, let's Greg, you guys have some.
We had staff and development needs. We thought the question was 20% time and the accountability of that. First of all, I think we hire those teachers that are into that, and then we don't want to make it this long process of going through and you have to document all this stuff that you've done, because that's the whole purpose of it, is not to do that, is to just be able to explore. So we thought about, Tracy and I were on our feet, thought about different things of a community circle, quick share out. We thought maybe a quick Google Doc of what you're working on, but not a whole big process, just that we're being accountable for our 20% time, but at the same time, really giving those ideas to explore.
And people seem to be concerned that we're going to lose our staff to grading papers and all those daily tasks, and we said the way our school is set up and the type of learning there is, hopefully there won't be 180 papers to grade at one time, or there won't be that pressure, and we'll, you know, because we'll be assessing kids as they go along and doing different things like that, so hopefully teachers will feel free to use that time as it's expected to be used.
Any other questions on staff development or needs?
Abby, anything that struck you guys?
I think maybe
Just the lottery system and how that affected our special education assistant. The lottery system is that, it's a lottery, so for the first year, the 40 students, we can only anticipate that we would have the same percentages that we would see in our regular education school district. So we can't guarantee that we would have those percentages, and so for our special education assistant, when they're hired, they are also our arts integration specialists. So should we not have any students who qualify for LD services or any other SLD service, that teacher is still an extremely valuable asset to our building, whether or not we have a student with that label. They're still a teacher, so we definitely need that person. And as we grow, we will probably get to the percentages that mimic our district demographic.
And that's what I kind of talked about with the question is, we're gonna look at the 4 years and the resources that we do have to provide a certain continuum of services for students with disabilities. But my vision, and I kind of talked about this in the paper, that, you know, you look at the resources that you've gained over those 4 years, and then where do we wanna go from here? You know, as far as a continuum of services for students with special needs. And we are gonna be part of a public school district. So even if we don't have a large continuum of services at the beginning, the district will also be able to provide services for all students. And so that's how we, you know, addressed that part of it.
Any other questions you have there, or questions in general? Anything else?
Question with
Yep.
the curriculum piece of it, I'm assuming that with being a school within a school, the co-curricular aspect, like after-school activities and stuff, would students be able to attach themselves
Yep.
to the district? That's
Yep.
right.
Yep, they could. However, our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club would be specific to our charter school. So for example, if there's students in the public school system, we would have to go through some conversations and work, partner with the regular education district, or our public school district, because that would be a program for our students, but they could attach themselves to anything in the public system.
I'm just curious what like a typical day would look like. What would the schedule be like? What kinds of things would you do?
I'll show you an example of one of the schools that we really felt strongly kind of envisioned, kind of helped with our vision. And this is something that, I'm not gonna recreate the wheel, this is something that I thought was absolutely fantastic. So it's 8:30 to 3:30 kind of day. I really loved this mentality of how you build project-based learning. So they had their reading block and their math development time on facts and skills necessary in math. They had mentor time, which the first year would be the staff and the student and student and student. But given that it would all be 8 to 9-year-olds, it would really be enhanced the following year when we would have multiple ages that could mentor one another. Community time, and then I like the expeditions and all-day electives. So this is some of the research that we used when creating our school day, but we would create something very similar to this. And these are charter schools that are out in the western half of the United States. Great question.
Other things?
I have more of a process, not really a charter school question, but more of a process as a culminating event, you know, for you guys putting this together. You've got about 9 or so folks that are different experiences, different positions, different school districts, you know, parochial, public school, and looking at a charter school piece. But as far as the process and your own learning and your own growth in this, if anyone's willing to share maybe some struggles with this process, or some real like aha positive that for your own learning and your own growth as you put this thing together.
We talked about this a little bit, and I thought Amy had brought up a good point in our original discussion, that if this had just been TLs, this would have been very tough without any people with any administrative experience. Because for me and Amy to put together like the finance or law piece, we've been way over our heads at that point in time. So it was good that we had people that with administrative experience or that are in the process to help put a lot of these pieces together.
Yeah, we looked at our strengths, and just like our charter school is gonna look at, you know, the strengths of the child and the child driving what their strengths are going to get them to learn, and that's what we did when we, you know, looked at the rubric and we looked at the pieces that we had to hit. We all kind of popped up and said, well, I would like to do this piece because I feel like I have a strength, you know, in this area, and I'm grumpy, lonely special ed person. So I'm like, I will, take the curriculum and instruction and assessment and do the special ed piece of that. And so it really, and then there were some people that were just, felt more comfortable doing certain pieces than other pieces, and everybody just kind of, it was pretty seamless how we all just kind of grabbed parts and pieces. It wasn't too tough to figure
And I
that
think
out.
the collaboration part, when it was set up for us, I think at least it was set up by the three of you that way, where we took a lead thing. We chose a thing to be the lead on, and then we supported another area. So what I thought was, Alicia was working away on hers and comes to class and says, I don't know about poverty. And Suzanne and I are like, we live poverty daily, so let us know what you need. I think that collaboration piece was huge. As I said to some that came through, law was not my forte, and I said to Tom, that thing I learned most was next time pick something better, because curriculum instruction is my life, and I love that too, but I grew so much, and I knew Pete had the finance, and yet I couldn't wait to hear what these two, because I know they come from such different perspectives. And our discussions were great, and Tracy and Greg with the staff development, that's another area I love. And when I sat through theirs again this morning, I'm like, wow, we're all so very different, but we just came together nicely because of the structure, the way it was set up, and I think just because, it stretched us in some ways, or else, allowed us to use where our strengths might be, even if it was just to support someone else.
And I think one of the interesting things in this process a little bit is, in education, we usually spend a lot of time thinking about the things we can't do. We spend a lot of time, we can't do that. We can't, and in this situation, when you're kind of developing whatever, you were thinking about it from a totally different lens. And you just kind of had the wide open palette, and you kind of let things go. And I just thought that was a refreshing, I've been in education for 30 years. We tend to be very deficit-minded. We tend to think about, we can't do this, we can't do this, and these kids can't. And it was refreshing to think about it from a different lens a little bit, about, forget all that, let's do whatever we want, and then start from there. So I thought that was a fun way to look at things.
I think also, all of us are so different, all of us needed something to wrap our heads around, like whether it was, I need to know the age of the kids, or I need to know how much money we have, or what does it look like? So I think all of us had a little bit of, okay, I can't move on until I see this. And we pretty much, mission and vision, we all needed to wrap our heads around, okay, what is this school all about? So that was more of a large group, and I'm glad we did it that way, just because from there, then we actually had a little bit of a finer lens that we could look through. But the adjustments that each member made, I thought, was pretty outstanding, because we started rolling with one thing, and then someone would say, hey, I need to know this first, so then we dropped that, took care of that, and then went back. So the collaboration that went along, I thought was...
I still don't know how we ended up as an elementary school, because that was a string of mine, I'll tell you that.
I think too, it was a valuable experience, when you're working in a district, you're obviously working with a team of teachers or a team of administrators that aren't always going to come from the same perspective, and we didn't all start out at the same place, and it was valuable to build our working relationships and our professionalism, and to learn how to decide what we're going to stand for and what we can let go and things like that. And I think we did a really good job with it. I think we worked well together.
I think the coolest thing is that any of us could have done any of these slides though, by today. Because I think that this was a vision that we all created together, and we might not have known it as in depth. Maybe I couldn't have walked into yours, but any of the other stuff.
Your high school math teacher taught you that much.
That's true. He was my high school math teacher, so so I do feel like it could. But this was our mission. This was our school, so we could feel strongly about any of the sections. Anybody could have come and done any of the sections for you, and known them well.
And I think one of the biggest things is I look at this, so why doesn't this happen in schools? You know what? And I think it's time. You think of the hours we put into this, and I think that's the biggest commodity we have in schools. That's the smallest, it's the biggest problem we have, I think, is the time. You look at the hours that it took to develop this. We spent a lot of, districts couldn't afford to pay you for that much time. They can't take you away from the classroom. So that is some of the inhibiting things that we have. Time is a really precious commodity in schools, I think. And it was fun to just have the time and not have to worry about, you know, getting all this other stuff done. And, well, we should probably start my project pretty soon. Get after that one of these days. A lot of time. End of June, right? That's where.
2 weeks to June.
But I think that was one of the fun things. You weren't restricted. Oh, I got to get to class. You know, a lot of times we're trying to stick these in between 2 class periods. We want a 15-minute meeting. We want to come up with all these great ideas. And, oh, we ran out of time. You know, you don't get that time to really, like they said before, digest things and toss things out. And, so that was kind of fun to not have to worry about that part of it.
Do you think that you talked about that refreshing perspective, could that carry over into your job? I mean, now when
Without a
things
doubt.
start to look like that, you could maybe move in that direction and say like maybe, you know,
Yeah.
like do you see that?
Without a doubt. I don't know if I'd try it in May.
Right.
But I might. I think you wait. But I do think, and I think that's where it has to start. I think you gotta, you know, I'm a big believer in try to get a few people that kind of think like you do and then try to chip away at the rest of that. And I think that is the idea here, isn't it? The whole idea of this program is get a few people to think like that and start chipping away. And you hope that's where it goes.
And that kind of came up in our presentation with one of the groups when I was talking about mindfulness, is that, you know, I have a school psychologist in one of my schools that brought the program into the schools that he services. And then through him providing me more research, I found out there's a whole school in Minnesota, you know, that does it. And it's an alternative school. And I was like, okay, let's go there. Let's go see what it's like and, you know, try to bring that whole school back to our district. And so, yeah, it gets me really motivated to try to bring something new and refreshing back into something that we've always done and it still isn't working, so let's bring something new in. And so I know that definitely struck me.
So it seems like you guys have all these awesome, innovative ideas from this program. So like when you bring these ideas back to your team at your own schools and all that, how are they received? Because it seems like
Very
you all...
careful how you serve this. The best way is by example. You're infiltrating the system, and you can't bring an idea as good as it is. It could be the best new fruit on a tree. If you've never tried it, don't ask someone else to. So you have to start walking the walk and talking the talk, and then people notice. Kids go to another grade level, and they have these practices, the mindfulness, the project-based learning, and then they start to expect it because that's how they learn best, or they'll start to create it within their own assignments, and that's how you infiltrate the system. You don't go back and serve them, just serve it up to them. You have to serve it. You have to be a servant of it first.
So don't necessarily ask for permission, just kind of
in your
do
own
it?
walls, you create the experience your students need to have to learn best, and then from there, you'll start breaking down walls.
Cool.
You know, I think it wouldn't matter what the proposal was, and I give you guys a lot of credit, and you put in a ton of time and, you know, and more than we would even know. But I think your question's an awesome question on that, and I guess a challenge I have for you is, it is one conversation at a time, it's one experience at a time, it's one classroom at a time, it's one grade level at a time, it's one, you know, whatever it is to kind of, to go out there and do it, and whatever it is. It doesn't need to be this, and then always be asking that question of what's next, what's next, what's next, and you do break down those walls, and you do it for our kids. And so, you know, excellent job, number one, and then number two, you know, just keep it rolling. So that's exciting to see. So nicely done.
Any other questions? We'll start taking applications on Monday.
Yep. Get that finance squared away.
That's right. You can't apply for a grant till the state of the